is the British Army's newest light tank, an Ajax fighting vehicle, and it's officially in service today. People won't like me calling it a tank, but it weighs 40 tons. It's as heavy as most Russian tanks. It has a 40mm cannon as its main gun, much bigger than the main armaments on tanks when they first entered service in World War I. And it's designed to provide the British Army with a covert recce strike capability. Come to the Ajax factory in Merthyr Tydfil in South Wales, where General Dynamics have got a contract to make 589 of these Ajax vehicles and Ajax variants, and they're going to give us a ride in their test track. General Dynamics have a contract to make 589 of these Ajax vehicles and the variations of them for £5.5 billion. So give or take, these are £10 million a piece. But the programme's running 8 years late, and with every kind of exquisite piece of military kit, there's always the question of whether or not by the time it comes into service, it's still fit for service. What do I hold on to? The size and weight of this vehicle is in many ways comparable to a sort of Soviet-produced T-72, but it's the technology that makes the Ajax so different. And it's partly that technology which has increased its weight so much. It is 5 times heavier than the CVRT family of vehicles that it replaced, and it is 50 times more expensive. It has a much bigger main gun, a 40mm cannon that is stabilised and crucially capable of firing on the move. But it's not just about the armament, it's also about the sensors, the suite of sensors and their ability to detect targets, track targets and broadcast that information to other vehicles and indeed to other troops, other weapon systems that may be operating above, beyond, behind and around. And it's that sort of connectivity that we have seen so much of in Ukraine. But of course, the other question is how well a vehicle like this, a £10 million vehicle, how safe it is, how safe the crew inside are from something like a £30,000 Russian Lancet drone. And of course, we have seen a Russian Lancet drone do significant damage to hundreds of vehicles, but including a Challenger 2 British-made main battle tank in Ukraine. Certainly pretty smooth, pretty amazingly smooth and pretty fast. Around the track, over the bump. But again, the question is, are exquisite pieces of weaponry like this, what is their role on the modern battlefield? And we've heard from the Chief of the General Staff, General Sir Roly Walker, who's broken down or explained his vision of future British warfare into sort of 20-40-40. 40% of the weapon systems that British forces use will be sort of utterly disposable, very cheap drones, fly and forget, throw them at the enemy, expect to never see them again. Another 40%, what he calls consumable. Those are expensive weapons, perhaps long-range surveillance drones, unmanned systems, which the army would not budget on throwing away, on using sort of disposable, if you like, because they're expensive. But then there's 20% at the very top end, the exquisite, the survivable platforms. And crucially, that's things they hope, like the Ajax, platforms that can protect the crews that use them, that can endure on the battlefield. Because there is a debate, which is, well, what can this system do that an advanced loitering munition can't do? You could fill the skies, as we've seen in Ukraine, with loitering munitions like the Lancet and variations of them, which can stay in the sky for hours at a time and can be replaced before they have run out of battery power, of endurance. And when they find a target, they can strike. And all the while that they're in the sky, they can be beaming back images to commanders deep underground, relatively safe in bunkers, without exposing, for example, the crew of an Ajax to risk. One of the great ironies is, as they're preparing to let Minister Luke Pollard take his ride in an Ajax, they've put a drone in the sky to film it. Just a cheap DJI drone, probably a few £100 worth of quadcopter. But that's exactly the kind of drone. Perhaps a little bit larger than that, perhaps a little bit more sophisticated. But those are the drones that we're seeing every day in Ukraine. Those are the weapons that have changed warfare. That's the future. And it's hard to escape perhaps a little bit of a sense that that's the past.
So I'm Major James Fair. I am the squadron leader in the Household Cavalry that has helped this programme take Ajax to initial operating capability. So we have in our combined arms squadron 27 vehicles. So that's the Household Cavalry reconnaissance vehicles with attached artillery, fire support team and attached engineers in their Argus. A family of vehicles called Combat Vehicle Reconnaissance Tracks, CVRT, colloquially known as Scimitar. They were designed and built in the 70s. They were pretty past it by the time they went out of service. They were small, they were light, they were fast, they were very under-armoured and they were very undergunned. It's better in every conceivable way. Yeah, it's more mobile, it's more lethal, it provides better protection for the crew. It allows us to do our reconnaissance job in a far better manner than what we could do with CVRT.
So what's the best thing about Ajax?
Its sighting system, without any shadow of doubt. So it has the primary sight, which you can see on the top of the vehicle there, the rectangular box on the top of the vehicle. That is an independently controlled 360-degree sight with both optical and thermal capability that allows the commander or the gunner to find targets at a far greater range than anything we've ever had before. It is independent of the turret itself, which means that the vehicle has what we call a hunter-killer capability. The gunner can be engaging a target with the weapon system and his gun sight while the commander is already hunting for the next target to pass on to him. And we're shooting on the move at targets on the move, and we can find them first. We can have an effect, a lethal effect at greater range than we can. So we can find them first, we can hit them first. It's just a better vehicle. So you're right, drone warfare is something that every army is now grappling with. It's a very fast-paced development. I would argue nobody knows the right way of using armour in a battlefield that is saturated by drones. It's something that we, along with our allies, are having to rapidly learn. But I would far rather be in this vehicle learning that lesson than any other vehicle that NATO has to offer. Absolutely, I'm confident in its ability now, but quite rightly it's still evolving because the drone threat's going to evolve, and we've seen that over the last few years. And this programme is about a spirally developed vehicle that just gets better and better as we use it. So it's on us to learn how to use it. It's on us to suggest improvements in accordance with the threat that we face. And we will, as a collective, user community, design community, programme, army, get better at using these vehicles as the threat changes and moves forward. There will be a place for autonomous vehicles, there will be a place for drones. But at the end of the day, there is a crew in there who have a professional ability to analyse what they're seeing on the ground, make a decision immediately and call effect. It's not just about looking at targets, it's about looking at the ground that we're crossing over, the ground that appears to planners on a map. We go forwards and work out what is actually usable and what is not for the forces that come on behind us. The other side has a reconnaissance ability that is also filtering forwards. We have the ability now to fight them and have an effect, and destroy their eyes, and continue to move on and use our own eyes to see what's going on. Drones are impacted by weather. We are not. We are more sustainable than a drone with a battery. We are part of a much more complex and wider system that, when engaged properly and as we intend to use it, will have an effect, without a doubt. Drones are a threat. We need to learn how to operate in a saturated environment, which we will do so. But we are part of a system that is far greater than the sum of its parts.